Welcome. Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea. What happens when a community fights back against pollution? Not with protests, but with science. We're going to see how simple data, straight from a chemistry lab, can become one of the most powerful tools for justice you can imagine. But it really all starts with this question. Think about it. Imagine living somewhere you suspect the water is unsafe, or the soil under your feet is contaminated. You can't see it. You can't smell it, but you just feel the effects. That invisible threat, it can create this deep sense of anxiety and helplessness. And for a lot of communities, this is just a daily reality. There's this constant nagging feeling that something is wrong. But here's the thing. You're forced to rely on these outside companies or government agencies to tell you if you're safe. So what happens when the reports come back saying, oh, everything's fine, but your gut and maybe your neighbor's health is telling you a completely different story? Well, that's the turning point. That's the moment when all that frustration and fear, it just boils over into action. It's the moment a community decides, you know what? Waiting for someone else to tell us the truth? That's just not an option anymore. They decide to find out the truth for themselves. And this leads to an incredibly powerful idea that real power, true sovereignty, comes from controlling your own information. It's about taking back the basic right to know exactly what's in your air, your water, and your land. There's a name for this. It's called data sovereignty. And what it does is it completely reframes data collection. This isn't some dry, scientific exercise anymore. No, it becomes a revolutionary act. Taking your own water samples isn't just about chemistry. It's about taking back control. It's a way of standing up and saying, we will determine the facts of our own reality. And look, this isn't just a theory, right? It's a concrete strategy. First, the community gets organized. Then they go out and they collect their own samples from wells, from rivers, from the soil. Those samples get sent off to an independent lab for a full chemical analysis. And then, with that hard data in hand, they can go to the authorities and demand a cleanup. Because once you have that data, everything changes. You're no longer operating on a hunch or just anecdotal evidence. You're operating on scientific fact. And facts, well, facts are very, very hard to ignore. So this is the crucial transformation. The chemistry data, the parts per million of some contaminant, the pH levels, all of that suddenly becomes the rock-solid foundation for a legal case. Science becomes the language of advocacy. It provides the undeniable proof that a site is unsafe and that something must be done. And that something is called remediation. It's the official term for the huge, complex, and incredibly expensive process of cleaning up a contaminated area. We're often talking about what are known as Superfund sites. These are literally the most polluted places in the country, where a cleanup can run into the billions of dollars. But even when a cleanup gets approved, the community faces another critical choice. It's a huge debate. Do they go with capping, which is way cheaper and faster, but basically just puts a lid on the toxic waste and leaves it there? Or do they fight for a full soil removal, a much more expensive and complicated option for sure, but it's the only way to permanently get rid of the threat for generations to come? This entire process, the data collection, the legal fights, the debates over cleanup methods, it's all about seeking justice. But what does justice really mean in a situation like this? For a lot of people, it's about way more than just a legal win or a check from a company. And this is where we come across the profound concept of Hózhó. It's a Navajo term, and it describes a worldview where justice means restoring harmony and balance. It's not just about punishing a polluter. It's about healing the land itself. It's this recognition that our well-being and the health of the environment are totally inseparable. It's a powerful vision of what that community, now armed with its data, is ultimately fighting for. So you can really see the difference here, these two clashing visions of justice. On one side, you've got our conventional legal system. It's focused on assigning liability, and its success is measured in dollars. But on the other side, you have this vision of Hózhó justice, which is focused on restoring ecological health, and it's measured not in dollars, but in the simple promise of a healthy future. So let's pull all this together. What are the big takeaways here? First, data sovereignty is real community power. Second, hard science, chemistry data, can become a sharp legal tool. Third, those cleanup choices are critical. They have consequences that last forever. And maybe most importantly, we've seen that true justice can mean something much deeper, healing the land itself. And that really leaves us with one last, crucial question to think about. In a world that's facing so many environmental challenges, what does it truly mean to achieve justice, not just for people, but for the land itself? What does that future of balance and harmony look like to you?